This is TWiT. There's another issue besides monopoly. It's monopsony. Can you define? I've always had a hard time defining monopsony. Can you define monopsony, Rebecca?
We really wanted to be the ones that made monopsony sexy. And
it's a bad word is part of the problem. Nobody can pronounce it.
It's a terrible word. And technically we're talking about oligopsony, which is even worse. Whoa. So a bunch of the early readers of the book were just like, you've got to take this out.
Plus,
nobody wants to read this
As you point out, we all played Monopoly growing up. We know how to we know Monopoly, but there's no monopsony game.
Yeah, but it's really, really important to know about.
Okay.
And then once you do know about it, you start to see it everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
So monopoly is where you've got a really powerful seller, and then they can exert the pressure on buyers. So Amazon does that, for example, like you pointed out, after it cornered the diaper market, then it was able to raise the prices on those. Their consumers are kind of locked in through Prime and all of those things. And so it's got that monopoly power. But on the other side, Amazon is also a really powerful buyer in a whole range of industries, so including books. So if you're a publisher, you're a seller into the book market, and Amazon's the buyer, but it's the buyer who's got all the power. And so monopsony is incredibly, we're seeing it everywhere through the culture industry. So, so book publishers who want to, physical books, ebooks, digital books, they've got to deal with Amazon. But we see it in recorded music markets where we've got three music record labels who control almost 70% of the global recorded music market. You've got to go through them for a lot of stuff. They happen to own three music publishers who own almost 60% of the song rights market, and so on it goes. And we need to know a couple of things about monopsony to understand why it's so problematic. One of the things is that it arises at way lower market concentrations than monopoly does. So even a market, like a buyer that controls 10% of the market, can exercise quite a lot of power over sellers. And we saw this with Amazon when it was starting out. It actually created something called the Gazelle Project, where it deliberately set out to cull the weaker publishers from the herd, to shake those down
named,
first.
Right?
Perfectly named. And in fact, this seems to be the only part that the lawyers at the company objected to, was the name. They're like, you've got to stop saying the quiet part out loud. It's kind of like the fact that when Bezos started the company, he really wanted to call it relentless.
It's like calling your special operation premeditated murder. Yes, we know murder is illegal and we are premeditating it.
If you go to relentless.com even today, it still diverts you to Amazon.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, so monopsony, so they were squeezing a bunch of publishers, and those publishers like Melville House refused to play ball. And so Amazon just removed the buy buttons for its books. And they had to give in, right? Now, at that time, I think Amazon was only 8 or 10% of the market. But if they lost those 8 or 10% of customers, they could no longer survive. Okay. And so if you think about the fact that they were able to exert that pressure all the way back then and how much more dominance it's got now, we can see that it's super dangerous.
It's a regular pattern. I mean, they did the same thing to Hachette when they tried to negotiate with Amazon. I remember this very well. And then all the buy buttons just disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, this is a thing that we're seeing across all categories of goods. And it's why the state attorney general is suing Amazon here in California. And it actually is quite a parable about how choke points work and how even if they initially benefit consumers, eventually they hurt all of us. So if you want to sell goods to people and you're not on Amazon, you might as well not exist, right? It's just not an option for most categories of goods these days. And so everyone feels the need to be on Amazon. And if you're going to be on Amazon, you have to play by Amazon's rules. So the first thing is, if you want to show up in the first page of listings, you've got to be Prime and you got to be fulfilled by Amazon. And so those are huge fees that Amazon scrapes from the sellers, right? Prime is not free delivery. Prime is delivery charged to the sellers instead of the purchasers. And then after you pay for that, you've got to buy what Amazon euphemistically calls ads. So Amazon's got a $32 billion ad market. It's not really ads as we think of them. Most of it is what we think of as payola, right? It's you pay Amazon for top billing on Amazon's service, right?
But this is a long-standing tradition in the grocery store business,
sure.
right? That's how grocery stores make money.
Lots of grocery stores. And so if one grocery store said, the end cap is going to cost you so much money that you'll no longer be able to afford to make sugar frosted, candy bombs, then you could go, great, I'm just not going to sell my cereal, or I'll go to Safeway, or I'll go to Pavilions, or I'll go to, any of the Vons or any of the other grocery stores. And they'll sell my cereal, and my customers will go there because they know that their kids.
There's nothing across the street from Amazon.
There's nothing across the street.
There's nothing across the street from almost any of these businesses anymore.
Yeah, what's across the street? Another Amazon shop.
Another Amazon. Yeah. So Amazon is, at this point, if you're selling on Amazon, they're taking more than half of the gross price of the good. So your margin is less than 50% in many categories and in many cases. And businesses can't afford to do that, right? Their actual margin is less than that, which means that they lose money on every sale. So they have to jack up prices. So this is where the thing that initially benefited consumers starts to look really bad for consumers, because the prices go up. But you don't see that the prices are going up, because Amazon has another thing that they do, which is a most favored nation status clause, which says that if you sell anywhere that's not Amazon, someplace where you're not giving them 40% or 60% in fees, you can't charge less than you charge on Amazon, which means that the prices go up on Amazon, but they go up everywhere else. So when you compare the price between Amazon and Target, it's the same price. And it's the same price because Amazon has pushed that price up everywhere. And that's why the AG is suing. He's saying, you've done the one thing that we tell antitrust we still tell you not to do, which is make prices go up.
Right.
And even if Target did have a lower price, right, you probably wouldn't see it anyway, because the research shows that once you've bought Prime, right, an astonishingly low number of people do any comparison shopping after that.
I think you said 1%.
Yeah, it's just really extraordinary. So so this is the Amazon playbook, right? And it's all of their playbook, but it's really clear for Amazon because they actually made a diagram about it that they like to boast about. And we've got
Operation Premeditated Murder.
Operation Premeditated Murder. You can, So Amazon's got this flywheel that it loves to boast about how great it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our version.
That's our
Spoiler.
version.
You're doing the spoilers again.
Oh, you showed him the wrong one. That was the second one. Show him the first flywheel. There's the legitimate flywheel.
So this is Amazon's virtuous cycle, right? So it says we've got this lower cost structure. It leads to lower prices, right? And that attracts more customers. And then, that brings more suppliers in, a better range. And then everybody is super happy. And this sort of cycle continues. And it's a virtuous cycle.
Win, win, win.
Everything is so efficient and wonderful. Like, how could anybody complain?
That's the one they publicize. That's not really what's happening.
Yeah. And then what we say, well, what's actually really going on is this is not a virtuous cycle. It's anti-competitive, because everything that Amazon has ever done in its business has been designed first and foremost to lock in its customers, right? It did that at the start by using venture capital to artificially lower prices so that it could attract customers, and also so that then it could get other people selling on its market, but also so it could squeeze other competitors out of the market, because no one else could, who didn't have access to those capital markets, could afford to sell at such dramatically.
Lose money on every sale.
Do you remember, there was a really long time and Amazon, it looked like a terrible business because it was just losing money hand over fist, and people saying it'll never be profitable. But this was always the play, to get enough customers locked in, that you've got enough suppliers locked in, because they've got, they can't go outside of Amazon because that's where the customers are. Then use the money that you make from that to eliminate even more competition, so everyone's got even less choice. And then ultimately, once you've got that power, once there's only Amazon on every corner, then you shake down your workers and suppliers so that they get an unsustainably low share. So that's the squeeze that's happening.
So everybody loses.
That same thing is happening across all of these industries.
And there's a tell you talk about in the book, when Jeff Bezos came back from his penis rocket flight, he made a huge mistake. He said the quiet part out loud, as you say. He thanked all the customers and sellers on Amazon
and workers
and the workers for making it possible. And that's really the only winner in this flywheel of anti-competition.
You peed in a bottle so I could pee in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
And I thank you.
Yeah. Also say that he did it because he didn't know what else to spend his money on.
That's right. He was also like, I don't know. I don't know what I can do with my winnings, he called them.
Winnings.
Apart
He called
from
them, and I want to be clear, lottery winnings, like somehow he'd gotten lucky. But it's very clear from day one, this was his strategy. This guy, a hedge fund.
He had that motto, didn't he? Your margin is my opportunity.
Right.
Right from the beginning.
And these aren't lottery winnings, because lottery winnings are taxable.